And let's if you analyze how Descartes works, he will classify all the patients in opposite couples. The model is love, hate. So you have a series of patients, feelings, ordered in opposite couples. But in the beginning of the system, you have only one without counterpart. It is what he calls admiration, but he means, he specifies, I mean by admiration, the fact that you perceive a difference, but unqualified, still unqualified. It's not hate, it's not love, it's not sympathy, but you perceive a difference. Now, if you think about it, so the threshold of the system is anomalous, it's only one, it has no opposite, but there is an excluded opposite. It is indifference, because if he calls admiration the perceiving of some difference, generally. So it means that this system of patience works on the exclusion of the indifference. He couldn't place the counterpart, because if there is, like in Aristotle, a man totally indifferent, all the system of patience falls. So in our culture needs this exclusion, but on the contrary, as the Schelling model suggests, it's not true. We can build a system of patience without excluding indifference. And I just suggest to read a short story by Marcel Proust, who was been published some years ago, was found again, was lost in some magazine, called L'Indifférent, which is a story about a woman which falls in love with a man because this man is absolutely, or seems to be absolutely indifferent. But according to Proust, on the contrary to Descartes, the fact of this being indifference grounds the patience, founds the patience.
Professor Agamben, I have two glosses on the notion of indifference. One, I'm wondering if by indifference in human experiences, there is something like the Buddhist non-attachment, where you can have a relation, you can have something happens among people or among your own qualities, but you're not attached to it. That, in that sense, I respond to the notion of indifference. My other question is, following Descartes, the Germans took him, and it ended up in the hands of people like Wilhelm Wundt, and they created what you mentioned in neurophysiology. They created psychophysiology, and they would take 2 points on the skin and keep getting closer until you no longer perceive the difference. This would be the point of indifference, neurophysiologically speaking.
So, just have to clarify a thing. So, we are speaking in some way on an ontological and metaphysical point of view. So the definition of indifference I'm trying to do was first logical, then in Schelling becomes really ontological. It's kind of ontological, abysmatic pre-foundation, ungrounding of the being. Then I went to I wrote Aristotle, so meaning of the content psychology. Patients are traditionally not part of logic, but for us model of psychology. And psychology is always a translating falling from another point. So that's what I meant. It's not simply, so it's not the indifference when you say this man is indifferent, has no passion, is cold. It's more than that. It's the indifference between two oppositions. The limit of third is indifference between two opposite. But then all these other examples, including the one of Wundt you're making, are pertinent if you just never forget also the other level, no? Because, for instance, she's a friend of Walter Benjamin, a German writer whose name was a pseudonym for Minona. He had a very interesting theory, probably derived from the Wundt model, called the schöpferisches indifference, the creative indifference. According to him, if you want to reach a point of creation, of creativity, you must, in the same way, not stick to the opposite, to extreme, but try to reach a point, a middle point of absolute indifference, and according to him, this is the moment of creation. Only when you are not taken in one extreme or in the other, you are in the ideal condition for creation. It's the problem that comes from the Wundt model. But I repeat, I was placing our discussion on the logical level in order to understand the relation between form and life.
And what about the Buddhism, the non-attachment?
In some way, insofar as we Western read Buddhism, we translate it immediately psychologically. So we understand the non-attachment as an absence of feeling of patience. So we are again in this dimension. I don't know if in Buddhism this is the right way to understand it.
I'm resisting that translation into Western thought. I don't understand Buddhism, but my Buddhist friends try to explain it as exactly to break the dualism.
Then it's perfect. Yeah. My point is how we neutralize a dualism, which is the right technique in order to neutralize a dualism. Usually, it's out. Then we reach monism. We try to get to the identification of the two. No? There is another possible way, which is the one I'm suggesting here. No, on the contrary, we reach the point of indifference. We keep them in the indifference. And to go back to this idea of love also, there is a third interesting philosopher I wanted to evoke, and this is a contemporary 20th century Italian philosopher called Giorgio Agamben, who had this idea of what he called the contact, touch, contact. He said 2 points are in contact when they are separated only by an absence of representation. 2 points are in contact only where there is a void of representation between them. And this is called contact. And this is also a kind of contact, again, to go back to our discussion about love as a relation, contact is a no relationship, because precisely you have no predicate, no representation, no possible representation. The 2 points are only separated by a void of representation. It's an interesting model, I think, again, and this is the idea of that contact is a no relationship. And I think, again, that's better contact than relationship. Usually we stay in relationship. It's very difficult to reach contact. But in this model you have and this is also a Buddhist idea, the void of representation as representing a contact, and not simply a nothing.
Can you repeat the name of the
Colli.
Colli.
C-O-L-L-I. He worked a lot on the pre-Socratic philosophers. He made a new edition of the pre-Socratic philosophers.